And now, your host, Couch Tomato!
Hey, I'm Couch Tomato and I'm joined by...
Oh.
Welcome to Stuff for Movie Buffs. And today we're talking...
Kingsman, Golden Circle.
All right, before we even get into any of that, I need everybody out there, put their right hand on their heart, left hand in the air, repeat after me, say I.
I.
Say your name.
Hulk.
Am a movie fan.
Am a movie fan.
As a movie fan.
As a movie fan.
I won't get mad.
I won't get mad.
I can't get mad.
I can't get mad.
And I'll keep my anger to myself.
And I will keep my anger to myself.
All right, perfect. If this is your first time listening to the show, first thing you need to do is head over to Apple Podcasts. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with us on a weekly basis. Also, we start off every show with that creed because I'm a movie geek, Hulk's a movie geek as well, and sometimes, admittedly, we take movies a little too serious. But by saying that creed, it allows us to kind of share our opinions and throw our emotions to the side. So let's jump into it. Kingsman, it's actually one of the movies that I was looking forward to this year. What say you, Hulk?
It was like okay. Like I wasn't like hyped for it.
Yeah, let me stop. I don't want to paint a false picture. I mean, just because of the time that it comes out, blockbusters typically don't come out in September. So around this time, Marvel sometimes releases movies in August, but around September and October, I'm waiting for maybe a blockbuster in November, or I'm waiting for Oscar season. So it's usually a dry spell during this time of year. So haven't been to the theaters in a while because not a lot of good stuff has been coming out. So that's why I was actually anticipating this movie. So we're going to actually talk about our overall impressions. We'll just jump right into it. How did you feel about Kingsman? I just saw it literally like less than 20 minutes ago. So
for me, it's a mixed bag. Like it was entertaining. Like there was some parts I liked, but then at the same time, there were other parts where just like it just kind of threw me off a little bit. So I guess it was just like a so-so, maybe like a 6 out of 10 rating, 5 out of 10 rating for me.
I can't give it a rating yet, but I guess because I tricked you into thinking, just because it was highly anticipated for me, doesn't mean that I had a good time. This movie was very bland to me, and it's very surprising because the way the action scenes are shot, just like the first one, it's on par with the first film, but for some reason, I found myself just kind of waiting for the movie to be over so I could get home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So... and also Matthew Vaughn, I'm a huge fan. I think he's directed one of the better X-Men movies. So, and also the Kick A-Word films too. I like the action scenes in that. Same here. I thought that the action was filmed great. I think when people left the theaters for the first one, there were a lot of standout moments. I don't know if you could point to any particular scene that I'll remember next week in this film. I mean, are you kind of on the same page with that?
Yeah, it's like the first one, it had a lot of, like the way they paced the movie, the way the action sequences went, like they were all memorable. Like you'll never forget that church scene. You'll never forget, I forget her name, but the actress with the legs and all that stuff, like the way they did it, it was cool. It was slick. Like you really were engaged. With this, it just felt like something I've seen before, and I don't know. It's like with this, you expect it to be a little kind of goofiness because it's like it's sort of like a parody of like the James Bond movies.
Yeah, the spy thrillers and stuff like that.
Yeah, but this one just felt a little bit too much. Like it felt like too much of like a cartoon. Like some of the CGI just threw me off. Like it just, I don't know. It was just like some of the scenes just like didn't feel real to me. At least with the other one, where like okay, like I understand like okay, you're making fun of something, but when a person got shot, like I felt it, or something happened, like I still felt like, you know what I'm saying? Like the fight scene in the bars, like the first one, like I was really engaged with that one. But this fight scene in the bar, it was just like, it was just nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so with this one, it didn't have enough of a realism. I don't know how to explain it. It just threw me off a lot of times.
I'll help you out because watch this. Why do you remember? You mentioned the church scene. And also that last battle on Kingsman. Why do you remember that so much?
I guess I don't know. It was just the choreography, like everything about the action sequence just worked. Like it just
The action sequences and the choreography were just as good in this film, but you remember the church scene, but you don't remember anything in this film. You want to know why I think that is? They did a good job of syncing, and I think Edgar Wright is one of the better directors who does this when he syncs action scenes to music. And whenever you hear that song, you automatically think of those action scenes when you watch an Edgar Wright movie. But with the Casey and the Sunshine Band, the Give It Up scene at the end when everyone's heads were exploding, it like the music made those scenes. The Leonard Skinner with the church, and you know, they tried to do that in this movie with the Prince and the Elton John music, but it just seemed out of place, especially with the villain Poppy being, because everyone has a tick. You know, Samuel L. Jackson had the lisp with her. She's in love with 50s nostalgia. So I thought they should have capitalized like on some jukebox music. But it was just a missed opportunity. So, and the cameo, like there's a cameo in this movie. It's funny the first time, but then they do it a second time, and then the third time, a fourth time, fifth time. When it gets to the 15th time, it's no longer funny anymore.
Well,
of course,
I kind of like that cameo. That was like one of the only things I actually enjoyed.
It was funny at first, but he was in every act in the movie, and it wasn't funny anymore. Like they kept going to it, and I'm like, okay, like we get it. He's using the F word. You've used that joke 15 times already. Like you keep move it along. But I mean, Hope liked it. I didn't. Like I said, I liked it at the beginning, but they wore it out. Like that was like one of the worst use of cameos I've seen. But let's compare this to part one, and let's be fair and give explanation, because I think you could tell from my testimony and yours that we probably prefer part one over part two.
Yeah, that's without a doubt.
All right, so I mean, let's compare them. I mean, I think part one was better, and I think it's one of the few origin stories, because I hate origin stories after you see it a lot. But I thought that the cliches for origin stories helped out part one, because it's kind of like Men in Black. When you're watching someone train for a new position, like at a job or school, like X-Men movies, it's a great excuse to throw in gadgets and throw in, you know, superpowers or things like that. And in Kingsman case, while he was training, we learned a lot about that world and how a gentleman should carry himself, or a spy for that matter. And also they introduced a lot of gadgets which were like the best parts of part one. So I thought that, you know, the use of weapons was great. Here, it just felt out of place. Like even the suitcase ended up being a great weapon, but the way it was used, it was like, all right, let's just hurry up and wrap this up. But yeah, and another part that you mentioned was part one was over the top. I think the plan for part two was to keep it over the top as well, but it was better with the original. Like just his plan. Like remember what we've passed the time for spoilers for part one. If you haven't seen Kingsman yet, you're just not going to see it. But Samuel L. Jackson's plan was to blow up everyone's head, right? And that's just it's a stupid plan. But in that world, it makes sense because of the way the villains act. It's like they're over the top. This plan, it's almost like a social justice warrior-ish type plan. And it's like punishing like people who do drugs. And I personally believe that this script was written like 2014, like right after the first, like right when it got greenlit. And what happened was a lot of states start passing that legalization law for weed. So they realized a year like after approving the script that it was no longer relevant, because a lot of states approve weed. So that's why they added angel dust, cocaine and heroin and all those extra drugs. I think they tinkered with the script because a lot of things have changed.
Yeah, because it felt a little too preachy. Like, I get it, like, you want legalization, but it just kind of felt like, okay, like, the writer was really trying to push an agenda. I was just like, chill. Like,
yeah. And you know what? I thought, like, the way they were positioning the president, like, okay, you know, like, I thought they were trying to say, well, people who use weed, or they're, like, normal people use drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, you don't come off too social justice warrior-ish if you do that. But even at the end, the message was, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like
inconsistent.
Yeah, I'm like, but no, it actually made it made the people who use drugs bad guys. Like,
Yeah.
and the lady gave a good excuse. She said some of them are just kids and they just don't know better yet.
Yeah.
And some people use it for medical purposes and stuff like that. But at the end, I'm like, well, a lot of people are going to feel alienated by this script and then the way they went down that path. So, I mean, that's for those reasons that I just named. That's why I'm going to say that Kingsman 1 definitely it's better than part 2. I don't even know if I'm going to watch part 2 enough times. Like, I saw it once. I do think that it's an okay movie. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm not going to give it a 6 or a 5 either like Hulk did. I'm just going to reserve. Actually, I'll push and agree with you, Hulk. But let me hear some of your reasonings for why you favor part 1 over part 2.
No, it's just even like with someone like the vulgarity a little bit, like I was able to take it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, F-bombs here, you know, sex jokes here, and you know what I'm saying? I was able to.
Part 1 was actually worse with they were just as bad with the sex jokes.
Yeah. I was able to take it. Like it didn't throw me off. But with this one, it was like specifically there's this one scene where it's the Glastonbury Festival, whatever, where
the thumbs up, but you should know what that means.
Yeah, it's like he's, you know, in bed. I don't want to get too graphic, but he's in bed with a woman, and the shot selection that the director chooses like left nothing to the imagination, and it was just like, whoa.
They could have did it more creative, like how Matrix did their scene where the cake when the eats the cake, like, but it could have been something more creative, but. Yeah, like by then I was like, oh shoot, you know, this movie and not only that, they had I'm not gonna call this a cameo, but one thing that I felt like they did on part 1, remember that they had you could even consider the Luke Skywalker thing. It wasn't a cameo, but I think it was a reason they cast him in that role. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because I think they knew people would say, hey, Luke Skywalker. So it's not an official cameo. I do believe that they wanted the same effect with Channing Tatum, but I don't know who's doing his contracts nowadays, but he's getting paid just to like show up. For 5 minutes in movies. It was the same thing in Hateful Eight. I thought that when he was on screen, I was like, oh shoot.
And they used him in every single marketing, every single trailer, every single TV spot. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. Like I know he's not the star. Taron Egerton is. But I know he's like gonna be prominent in the movie. Nope.
You know what? They might be positioning him for the the trilogy finale.
That's clearly what they did, because you see it at the end.
Because hopefully they do the same thing with Storm, Halle Berry, because it's like I think they could have gave that role to anybody else. If you're bringing in Halle, I'm not saying she's an Oscar worthy. Well, she did win an Oscar, but I'm not saying. I'm not saying she's the big gun, because she has a lot of stinkers on her resume as well, but I felt like she was underused also. So, will this next question, it's already greenlit, right? Which is the, because will this movie get a sequel?
Yeah, it is, because
it's official, it's announced. But remember, they did the same thing with Kick A-Word, and they were like, oh, it's definitely getting the trilogy treatment, but then the numbers didn't come back right. But I know when I looked up the numbers for their Thursday night opening, apparently it was on track to do some good numbers. Do you know what like the estimates are going to be for the weekend
Variety
totals?
had it at 40 million for the weekend, which is 4 million more than the sequel. So I mean the predecessor. So it looks like it's going to get a third one.
That's like 3. That's like less than 3 It's. That's what makes me appreciate it more. Like for that number alone, but. Yeah, so it did better than the sequel, but still, you got to think that they were hoping for because even this, I think with the first one, I do believe that they probably were hoping that they would have drove in more numbers. Still, it was a profitable movie, but with the names attached, I don't know. You said it's on pace for 40 million, right? That still looks like it's undershot, but I'm glad that they're happy. So they were projecting those numbers and they're going to reach their target.
Because I agree with you, like. If you have Jeff Bridges, Halle Berry, Channing Tatum, Colin Firth, you know what I'm saying? You know,
in an action movie
in the middle of September, like I know you're not thinking 100 million, but at least 60, you know what I'm saying? 65 mil.
Yeah, I'll even settle for the 50 if it do. Like, you know what I mean? But A couple things that I noticed that they're gonna position in the sequel, and just is kind of like piggybacking off of spy cliches. Spoiler alert. All right, sorry about that, but they basically blow up a lot of the Kingsmen, like the other agents.
And I'm starting to hate that.
I don't even think his homegirl is dead.
That's why I was shocked. Like, I was really shocked that they killed her. Like,
I you know what I thought? Because I was like, and I was wrong, but I'm like, she's gonna pop up during the wedding, and they're gonna ask, is there anyone, say what you got to say or hold your peace. However, the preacher says it. And I thought she was gonna pop up during that, and it never happened. So I was like, oh,
yeah.
I know she's not dead unless you see a body. And even if we see a body, that doesn't matter because apparently they got this technology that could just help your brain and stuff. And the other guy, I forgot his name, but from what's his name? From Green Lantern, the gadget specialist on this movie.
Oh, Mark Strong.
There we go, Mark Strong. So. Mark Strong, he's clearly what happened to him, but you never know with this franchise.
Nope.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be funny the way it happens, but this time it wasn't funny. But because I'm like, y'all could have found a better way to explain it, but whatever. So I definitely think that they're gonna position some of that in a sequel. I do think that Channing Tatum will be like a bigger part in an upcoming movie. And I would like to see this film get another, a third installment and get another crack at it because I like this, like that they're trying to position mini blockbusters during this time of year. Yeah. Marvel's been pushing out August films and February films recently to where I'm like, all right, yeah, let's fill up those spots during the season because for February, it used to be that I was always waiting for late March, or April or May for blockbusters. And in August, October, November, I was always getting ready for Oscar season, but I wasn't really getting a chance to visit the theaters a lot. So the more movies like this, I think they could find their stride during this time of year.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a decent franchise where it could make, because last one made 414 mil worldwide. I think it could hit that number again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I think they have the marketing appeal with all these these actors, these big name actors in there. And like you said, I like the fact that, okay, maybe the summer box office is not what it was, back in the day, like when we were growing up as kids. Mm-hmm. But maybe these Septembers and Novembers and, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to start picking up more because of how Hollywood is spacing out their movies. So it gives, some of these mid-range blockbusters a chance to flourish. So.
And I think they do throw a couple jabs at America. And whenever you do that in a movie, I do think the overseas markets tend to like it.
Yeah.
So even when you compare the Kingsman to the Statesman, Kingsmen were gentlemen where, the traitor was on the statesman side, which is like Americans. And the way the president was acting, I'm pretty sure they pulled that out of some real life issues or whatever. So,
yeah, I'm sure he's a ripoff of a George W. Bush or
a combination of some of our former leaders or whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay, they're kind of throwing jabs at America, and even the idea of us kind of sacrificing our own people. I don't know. I felt like, hey, I wasn't really feeling that message, but I think some people overseas will kind of think it's funny. So all in all, I'm anxious to hear what you guys think. Should this movie get a third film, or how did you feel about this one? Is it better than the second, or not even close? So let us know on the Facebook page or in the comment section. Anxious to hear what you guys think. And guys, it's about that time. I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Before you leave, if you like what you heard, share it with a friend on Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, or wherever you go for your podcasts. Don't let this be the last time we hear from you or you hear from us. Support the show by giving us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, guys. It will really mean a lot. Also, join us next week and check out the show notes on where to find us weekly. It's Couch Tomato Films on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and Couch Tomato Film on Twitter. Other than that, peace.